erupted in a very, very short time. As my reading has just come to an end, I do a quick recap. Interestingly enough, we went into my Atlantean lifetime and separated the two memories that I think I did kind of feel like I'd muddled up to. So one where I was kind of drowning, but there was a sense that I didn't drown. This is why this other one I had of past life where I was being pulled out of the water and there was erupted volcano. She really went into that. They wanted to elaborate on that. Was definitely in Pompeii, and there was literally, let me take this off my head, there was fire that she was picking up on where I'd been burnt, partly burnt from the eruption, but I lived. I had I don't know for how long, but in that memory I was definitely alive and had been pulled from the water, but there was like almost like a fire burning, tingling that had been happening on this side. She was picking up on that where I had been pulled into the boats, which I was getting confused about because I felt like I survived. But what she picked up was really, I'd never seen of. She said, I did survive Atlantis. We went into my memory and she described what was around me in the column-like sort of sphere. It was a personal temple where I was praying. She said, and it was like a capsule, like a Faraday cage that surrounded me energetically and almost got washed out to sea, away from the epicenter of where the flooding was because of the momentum of the water. So I did get knocked out in it, inside it, but that was interesting. She said the temple itself was like within my home. So we went into more details of that lifetime, which married up with the visions that I'd had and the dreams that I've had over a few years, and confirmed. She said I was part of a royal household, a princess, very kind of young. Myself and my brother, we were almost like, it was like a married together, married my brother kind of thing, as part of the royal family household of one, and there's 12 families of the Atlantis, so we were one of them. And I had felt like I wanted to give up my my job and go with my brother, because he left and went to what is now what was then became Kem and Egypt, that area. I stayed with my father, or with the man who was teaching me. He wasn't like the king. I wasn't like a princess in that sense. It was a priestess, but of royal blood. So our bloodline, we were in kind of reverence, and then there was these other kind of beings that were different kind of species, almost like they were a lot smaller, had really sharp teeth looking, that were kind of like minions below us a lot of, but there was one in particular that was very violent, did his own thing, and was kind of corrupt in the politics that was going on, and I couldn't stop it. So there was definitely a sense that she said you wanted to kind of leave what was happening and the corruption behind and go with your brother, but you stayed behind out of obligation, knowing in doing so that you would possibly be dead, because they knew that that was a possibility. They knew that was coming. So you knew your death was imminent. But she's very beautiful. She said, your clothing are lovely. It's like, yeah, hence the luxury, hence this sort of royal egoic sense. So all very interesting, especially this field thing. So she said I was in personal prayer, and I say with my memory singing to the waters, and it locked in like a bubble around me, almost like those in India you see those, they're like bells. So it we were trying to establish, because I was saying, is that in reality, did I actually drown in that, or because or where did I go energetically? Was it physical? And she said it was a physical thing that protected me from the storm and from the waves that was happening around. It literally created an energetic bubble within this power. Sounds pretty amazing, and I survived it because of that. So I was holding my own integrity, holding my own energy, and linked with all this stuff. And she said there's like beams, things were like bouncing off of it, and it was going over through the waves, and it was still like a temple. So, but it was very, very powerful because you in the residue of you. That's why you were taken far out. When we tried to find the physical point of where it was, it's completely underwater now, where I had originally lived, and where the palace was. It no longer exists. This was like, part of me felt like what I was seeing was these fractals of the energy being flung through time, and gathering like that, fragments together. So all very, very complex, especially as what, and then she wrote down the name, because there's not necessarily a name of the royal house that I was part of, because I wanted to know which of the 12 families, because I couldn't quite see, and it's a symbol, so she was drawing it and writing down what, and she's going to send it to me, what each of the house elements of those sounds meant as part of who we were and what our job was, and part of the genetics is obviously connected to that. It was interesting that I had seemed to be linking through these different frequencies of when I'm around, when things are falling apart. So obviously this soul incarnation frequency is linked to being present, to doing and holding a certain sort of role, but also there's a lot of guilt that I'm releasing. So I will obviously release to the full moon of the fact that she tried to change things and couldn't. She wasn't in her own power enough to make a difference, and that theme is obviously followed through. She was and did hold to integrity, so I had thought perhaps linked to another memory that I'll have to maybe unpack a little bit more to see if it's linked to that, because I thought when she said about the frequency fence, because I'd been asking about halls of Amenti and the frequency fences, that possibly links to that, but this was not. She said your energy was very quite of the light, and presence. So yeah, did marry up with my own visions of what I'd seen. So confirmation really of that lifetime. In what I was doing, I had kind of not minion. They're like little orange yellow minions. I was thinking, and when she with these sharp little teeth is what she said about, but they were creature-like in energetics. They were a lower frequency, very lower frequency compared to the presence of the soul incarnate that I was in that life. I was of a very high frequency and able to hold that. But yeah, there was part of me that didn't want the responsibility, wanted to kind of move away from that, go with my brother, who we were held in a ceremony in union. So I don't know if it's because of the union, there wasn't a romantic involvement. It was more a linking of brotherhood and houses, or for political coming together, a bit like you see in the corruption of like the Egyptian royalty. But this wasn't in Egypt. This was definitely in Atlantis. So there was big corruption happening below me, and I was trying to change things but didn't. And there was lots of other people, I think, that had let things happen as well. So interesting. So eager to see what she sends me through of this image. I will share it with you when I get it. Of what, because I asked, could you write down the symbol of the royal house that I was part of, and the father figure who I knew and was perhaps not father, he was teaching me, so I was in training, but like a father. There was 3 of us that would worked together in cahoots, if you like. This person who was part of the school, who taught in the capital city, my coming together with my brother, who actually went off and did what he needed to do in what became Chem, and they were considered like we were breaking away from the motherland, if you like, whereas I was staying behind as like the inside gal, if you like, to keep him updated. But obviously that wasn't for very long because things fell pretty quickly after that. It was a 6-month period from when who I knew as my brother had left on ships. They wouldn't have even been, I don't think, even set up in so they wouldn't have even built things. They would have gone to where the pyramids were. So at the time period, she said. Also, she spoke of 700 AD as being the time of the, and I'll have to corroborate this because that was when she was talking about where we were in relation to what I had been seeing. So that's Ali Domini. So I'll have to look up what's in that period of where the that eruption was taking place. I don't know when it happened. Alexa, what date did Pompeii happen?
The date for the eruption of Vesuvius that buried Pompeii was traditionally given as August 24, 79 CE.
79 CE was when Pompeii happened. CE. I'll have to look up when that is in the timeline to know for sure. But she said that was a significant date that was coming up, 700, and she said that's not an exact, but it's 700 and AD, Allo Domino. So, and I'll leave you with that.